I stood in a room where everyone had a seat except me. No one turned around. No one called my name. I placed the box on the table, looked my brother straight in the eye, and whispered, "Check under your charger." Then I walked away. And this time, no one stopped me. That was the moment. They couldn't pretend anymore. Some stories don't need to scream to haunt you. Some truths don't need to be acknowledged. They only need to be seen. This is the journey of a woman erased by her own family, cut out from dinners, memories, and even photographs. They replaced her with someone easier, more convenient. But she came back. Not for revenge, but to remind them. This isn't just a story about family. It's a story about dignity, about standing in your own truth when everyone else turns away, about the silent power of someone who was forgotten, but never truly gone. There was a place for everyone, except me. I stood in the entryway of the Lexington family dining room, holding a simple wrapped package in both hands. The air was thick with roasted rosemary turkey and nutmeg, the scent wrapping around me like a memory I hadn't asked for. The table glowed in the soft amber light, place cards written in elegant cursive, crystal wine glasses catching glimmers from the chandelier overhead. But not one of those cards said my name. At the head of the table sat my older brother, Derek, still built like the quarterback he once was, still wearing that self-satisfied smirk like it had been painted on. He carved into the turkey with ceremony, like a king slicing through tradition. Beside him sat Haley, our cousin, draped in our late grandmother's brooch, the one reserved for Easter Sunday. She sipped wine like it was her birthright, like the seat belonged to her all along. I scanned the table again. Maybe I missed it. Maybe a chair had been tucked aside to make room for pie. No, the table was whole, complete, without me. I turned to my mother, Elaine, who was fussing with a dish of cranberry chutney. Her fingers trembled just slightly as she adjusted the silver tongs. When I finally found the words, they barely rose above the clatter of cutlery. "I think you forgot my place." Elaine didn't look up. And Derek? He didn't even pause chewing. "It's outside, with the dogs," he said, flat, cold, clean, like it cost him nothing to say. Silence fell. No one laughed. No one protested. Not even a chuckle of discomfort. I felt the heat crawl up my neck. Not from embarrassment, but from that terrible clarity. That moment when you realize the people you thought would catch you have long since turned away. Still, I didn't yell, didn't beg. I stepped forward. With steady hands, I placed the small box, wrapped in brown paper and twine, directly in front of Derek's plate. Then I leaned in, close enough for only him to hear. "Check under your charger," I whispered. And without waiting for a reaction, I turned, walked away. The door didn't slam behind me. No one called after me. No one ran to stop me. Just the sound of my boots on the porch. And the wind reminding me I was still here, still alive. When I was a little girl, Thanksgiving felt like magic. The house smelled of clove and cinnamon rolls, the kind that baked slow and filled every corner with warmth. The kitchen would buzz with laughter, Mom singing off key, Dad humming along, Derek teasing me about my apron being too big. We didn't care that the table was chipped or that the chairs didn't match. It was loud, imperfect, glorious. We were whole. Derek and I would argue over who got the last square of cornbread. Dad would break the tie with a goofy grin, cutting it in half and saying, "Split it, and split the thanks." That was my father, Walter Lexington. He always smelled like motor oil and wood glue. He built bookshelves in the garage and somehow kept that old Dodge alive through winters and miracles. He'd ruffle my hair every single time I looked discouraged and say, "You've got grit, Ellie. Don't let anybody make you forget that." Back then, I thought he was just trying to cheer me up. Now I think maybe he saw something in me I didn't know was there, because even in those bright moments, there were shadows I didn't see growing. I didn't know the same kitchen where we once danced barefoot would someday become a stage where I'd feel like a stranger. The fridge used to hold my drawings, my report cards, birthday cards with glitter still stuck to the magnet edges. Now it held reminders from Haley, chicken in the oven, don't forget PT for Mom. Even the mugs had changed. The white one with faded holly leaves I used to drink cocoa from, gone, replaced by one that said Blessed Aunt. I wasn't anyone's aunt, but it wasn't just the mugs. It was the energy. The center of gravity had shifted. The family that once paused everything when I walked in the door now seemed to operate like a machine, smooth, quiet, and indifferent to my presence. I kept thinking, maybe it's just stress. Maybe grief made them forget how to see me. So I kept showing up, booking flights home, paying for repairs before they asked, leaving space, waiting to be let back in. But looking back now, it's clear. They didn't forget me. They replaced me. Derek wasn't always cold. He used to protect me. Once I slipped off the porch stairs, tore my knee open on the gravel. He didn't wait. He scooped me up, ran 3 blocks without stopping, shouting for Mom the whole way. He cried harder than I did. That version of Derek, my big brother, my protector, disappeared. And Haley? 3 years ago, she borrowed Mom's antique necklace, a family heirloom. When it vanished, she swore she'd never seen it. At Grandma's funeral, she locked the limo door, looked straight at me and said, "You don't belong in the front row." So when I saw her setting the Thanksgiving table, wearing Grandma's brooch, laughing like she'd always belonged, it hit me like a punch to the ribs. She was the one writing notes on the fridge, the one baking pumpkin bread from Mom's recipe book, the one Mom called a blessing. No one made an announcement. No one told me I was out. They just let her slide into the seat I didn't know had been vacated. It started with missed calls. Then Derek became the filter. Dad's resting. It's not a good day. Eventually, I stopped hearing Dad's voice at all. Only summaries, reports, always from Derek, always wrapped in concern, always saying, "We didn't want to bother you." Then came the dinner, a full spread, the same old table, the same chairs I helped refinish with Dad when I was 13. I saw it on social media. No one called me. No one even thought to mention it. When I asked, Mom said, "You live so far, Ellie. We figured you wouldn't want the hassle." But I used to fly back every Thanksgiving. I sent money. I paid for part of the roof repair without being asked. I showed up, again and again. And still, they stopped saving me a seat. It happened 2 months before Thanksgiving. I hadn't planned to visit. I just drove. Something inside me needed to see it. Not the people, the place, the porch, the window I once watched snow fall through. I thought I'd park in the driveway and stay there, maybe 15 minutes. But the driveway was empty. No Derek's truck, no Haley's car, no clatter from the kitchen, just quiet. I stepped out. Cold air bit at my sleeves, but my key still worked. Inside, the house felt different. Familiar walls, same layout, but everything felt staged, like someone had dressed the house up to look like our home, but something behind the eyes was missing. Except one place. Dad's workshop. The moment I stepped in, time folded in. Cedarwood, dust, the same lamp with the flickering bulb. His recliner still sagged in the center, his toolbox still sat under the shelf, and in the corner, the old safe. That safe had been there forever. I'd seen him open it, maybe twice. And then I remembered. Something from years ago, high school, a rainy Saturday. Dad was reading in the garage. He held up a book and smiled. "Just in case, kiddo." He slid something inside the spine of a book. Travels with Charlie, by Steinbeck. I scanned the shelves. There it was. Cracked leather, spine faded from sun. The key was still there. It clicked, metal grinding, and inside, a sealed envelope, heavy, cream-colored paper with my name on it, his handwriting, firm, slightly slanted. I opened it. Inside, a notarized will, dated 2 weeks before he passed. Everything, the house, the land in Utah, the savings, all to me. Not a mention of Derek or Haley. Behind it, folded carefully, was a handwritten note. "Ellie, I didn't see it before. Now I do. You never asked. You just showed up. This house is yours. You've earned it. Love, Dad." I came back the night before Thanksgiving. No grand entrance, no announcement, no intention of staying. I wore a navy coat, dark jeans, and boots scuffed from too many years of walking away from things that hurt. No makeup, no earrings, not even the necklace Dad gave me when I turned 18. Just a plain paper box in my hands. Inside, the will, the letter, and a photo, Dad and me, standing shoulder to shoulder, laughing as we repaired the old backyard fence. The house looked the same from the outside. The string of holiday lights blinked unevenly around the roof. The wreath on the door leaned slightly to the left, like always. Someone had replaced the welcome mat. It used to say, "Home is where Dad is." Now it read, "Grateful hearts gather here." I didn't knock. I let myself in. The warmth hit me first, followed by the smell of candied yams and turkey drippings. Laughter floated from the dining room. Someone, probably Haley, was telling a story. No one noticed me at first, but I noticed everything. The way Derek sat at the head of the table like a throne had been built for him. The way Haley's hand rested lightly on his arm like she'd rehearsed the gesture. The way my mother smiled, polite, distant, the same way she used to smile at PTA fundraisers. There was no seat for me. Again. I didn't hesitate this time. I stepped forward, walked the length of the room, and placed the box in the center of the table. Derek looked up, eyes narrowing. "Ellie, what are you doing here?" I didn't let him finish. "Check under your charger." My voice was calm, almost soft. Haley leaned forward, peering at the box. "Is it a gift?" I looked at her, not through her but into her, for the first time in years. She flushed. Her hand, which had been reaching for the box, slipped back to her lap. Elaine, my mother, stood halfway, her expression unsure. "Ellie, this isn't—" "I'm not staying," I said, just dropping that off. Then I turned. This time, they followed. Chairs scraped back, silverware clinked. I was halfway down the front steps when I heard Derek's voice, sharper now, confused. "What the hell is this?" I kept walking, but inside that box, beneath the folded copy of Dad's will and his handwritten letter, was something else, something smaller, quieter. A key, the old brass key to the safe, and next to it a photograph, me and Dad, smiling like we had all the time in the world. No one stopped me as I reached my car, no one called out. I closed the door behind me, sat there, hands on the steering wheel, let the cold seep in, let the truth settle, not out of revenge, not out of anger, just truth. And the quiet satisfaction of knowing. This time, I didn't need them to see me. They just couldn't look away. I was already in my car when the shouting started. Chairs scraped, voices rose. The night air carried fragments of my name, like a storm building behind closed doors. But I didn't turn back. Inside that plain brown box, left sitting on the center of a table that once held space for me, was everything they tried to erase. A copy of the notarized will, a letter in Dad's unmistakable hand, a photograph, just me and him, shoulder to shoulder, sweat-streaked and smiling after rebuilding the fence. Proof. The kind that didn't scream, didn't accuse, just existed. And that's the thing about truth. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. It waits, patient, unshakable. By the time I pulled out of the driveway, my phone had already begun to buzz. A voicemail from Mom. "Hi, sweetie, we read what you left. It just caught us off guard, that's all. We should talk. I think we all just need to breathe and come together as a family." No apology, just surprised. Then Derek. "We should meet. There's clearly a lot to discuss. I think we all misunderstood some things." Still no mention of the will, or the letter, or the key. Haley didn't write a word, just sent a single sad face emoji. I didn't respond. Not out of spite, not out of pride, just because. I didn't have anything else to give. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't craft long explanations or cold replies. I let their messages pile up, hope, confusion, guilt stacked on top of one another like dishes after a party no one enjoyed. A few days passed, then the tone shifted. Derek tried nostalgia. "Remember when Dad used to make us rake leaves and promise hot chocolate afterward?" Then guilt. "He wouldn't want us fighting like this." And finally, desperation. "You're still family, Ellie. Please don't let bitterness win." But bitterness hadn't taken root. Silence had. It was silence that reminded me of who I was, before they rewrote the story without me. It was silence that reminded me I didn't owe anyone a seat at the table if that seat came at the cost of my self-worth. A week after Thanksgiving, Derek showed up at my office. I hadn't told anyone where I worked. He must have looked it up. But he didn't get past the front desk. My assistant, Paula, who once brought me soup when I had the flu, looked at him and said, "She's not available." She told me later, "He didn't look like someone you'd want to see." She was right. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted space. And that unsettled them more than any confrontation ever could. When people are used to you begging, your silence feels like a scream. When they're used to you shrinking, your absence feels like defiance. They didn't know what to do with a version of me who didn't explain, didn't plead, didn't return. It's funny how truth doesn't need defense, it only needs light. And now, finally, mine had it. Whether they chose to look was up to them. It was 3 weeks after Thanksgiving when the phone rang again. This time, I answered. Mom's voice was quieter than I remembered, fragile, like something in her had cracked and hadn't quite settled. Ellie, she said, I think we made mistakes. She paused, searching for words. This family, it's still yours too. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence hold. Then I said, I was always here. You just lived easier when I wasn't. She didn't reply, and that silence, that breathless, aching pause, said more than any apology could. Because silence can hide a lot of things. But not the truth. I didn't need her to grovel. I didn't need a dramatic confession. I didn't even need her to understand the full weight of what had happened. I just needed her to see it. And now, maybe she did. A few days later, I packed a plain envelope. No return address, no note. Just one photograph. Me and Dad, standing by the fence. The same one that had been taken down from the hallway wall years ago. The photo they thought they could discard. I mailed it. And I didn't wait for a reply. A week passed. Then, one afternoon, my neighbor Miss Carter, an older woman with a garden full of gossip and orchids, texted me a photo. It was of Dad's old tool shed, the door slightly ajar, and just above the workbench, taped crookedly to the wooden beam. That photo, me and him. No frame, no caption, just there, visible, seen, in the one place no one else ever bothered to go. And that was enough, because this was never about revenge. It was never about winning. It was about not disappearing. It was about existing. Being remembered not as an afterthought or a burden, but as truth. Not loud, not flashy, just steady, unmoving, real. Sometimes people ask me if I ever made peace with them, if we reconciled, if there was a tearful reunion and a shared holiday after all. I just smile and say, I was always part of the story. They just rode around me. And now they don't get to write me out. I drink my coffee from the holly mug I took back after the memorial. It's chipped now, faded, but I still use it, because it reminds me of the little girl who used to believe love was about being chosen, and of the woman who finally realized sometimes love is about choosing yourself and never letting go of who you are, even when the world, or your own family, tries to erase it. This was my chapter, and I'm keeping the pen. 3 weeks passed, and then I sent the photo. No return address, no note, no explanation. Just a single image, me and Dad, shoulder to shoulder, smiling like we'd built the world together. I dropped it in a plain envelope, sealed with nothing but quiet conviction. I didn't expect anything. But a few days later, my phone lit up with a message from Miss Carter, the neighbor with the overgrown orchids, and a knack for noticing things most people miss. She sent a picture. It was Dad's old tool shed, the one behind the garden, where time seemed to slow and memories hung in the air like sawdust. The shed door was open just enough to let light spill in, and taped, slightly crooked, to the wooden beam above the workbench was the photo, no frame, no caption, just there, visible, undeniable. A little girl and her father, standing together, not on the mantel, not on the fridge, but in the one place where truth had always lived. And I stared at that image for a long time, because that moment, quiet, unceremonious, was everything. The house may be in my name, the land, the savings, the paperwork, all of it may belong to me now. But none of that was the real inheritance. The real inheritance was this, the knowledge that I mattered, that I wasn't erased, that someone saw me, not the version edited for family comfort, not the one trimmed to fit their narrative, but me. The girl who showed up, the woman who stayed true, even when they didn't, especially when they didn't. Sometimes the loudest truths live in silence. Sometimes the deepest validation comes not from applause, but from presence, from being seen in the quietest corners. I didn't need their words, I didn't need their rewriting, because the truth already existed. And truth, real, unwavering truth, doesn't vanish just because it's ignored. It waits. and when the light finally hits it, it shines. I still live in Austin, still drink from that chipped holly mug I reclaimed. Some mornings, I let the marshmallows melt a little too long, just to watch them soften like the girl I used to be. People ask me sometimes, "Do you miss them?" I say, "I miss what we were supposed to be." But I don't chase ghosts anymore. I build new stories, write new chapters, with people who don't need proof to believe I belong, with people who don't call love too sensitive or too much. I've learned that legacy isn't built on names carved in marble, but in moments, in truth, in the things we choose to carry forward. So I carry that photo, that mug, that memory, and I keep walking, head high, heart steady, because this is my life now, and no one gets to erase me from it. Sometimes the people closest to us can forget who we are. They rewrite us into versions that feel easier, quieter, more convenient. But here's the truth. You don't need anyone's permission to exist. You don't need to be loud to matter. You don't need to be perfect to belong. This story reminds us, being erased doesn't mean you're gone, and being quiet doesn't mean you're weak. Your worth isn't measured by how much space others give you. It's measured by how deeply you know your own value, even when no one else does. So if you've ever been overlooked, replaced, or made to feel invisible, let this be your reminder. You are still here. You still count. Thank you for listening to this story. If it moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of your own strength, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing with someone who might need this message too. Because sometimes one story has the power to make someone feel seen. And that changes everything.